You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming out and listening to The Real Short Box. My name is Donald, and I am here today with a very special guest, actor Breeanna Judy. Breeanna, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hello, hello, hello.
Thanks for coming out, Breeanna. We really appreciate it. We've been doing a series of kind of casual interviews, but also kind of giving me a helping hand, since a lot of the other podcast friends that I have that we do this podcast together with, they've been pretty busy here for the holiday seasons and stuff. So thank you for being on, and thank you for helping me out with this.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Always a good time. Today's topic is going to be something that's a little different than probably what most people are used to with us. Now, there are comic books that deal with horror. There are comic books that deal with holidays. And there are a few comic stories that I've read in the past that are holiday horror related. Marvel's even done some of these things. So DC, Image, a lot of these comic book companies. So it's not unrelated to comic books at all when we're talking about holiday horror films. Which is, of course, the topic at hand. What I wanted to do was kind of get a little bit of a background. You've been acting for a while out here in Los Angeles, and you've been in television, films, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I started my career officially in 2012 and got a handful of feature films under my belt and some little television bits here and there, and we're just keep on rocking and rolling.
That's great. That's so cool. Always great to know that when you have friends that are creative and want to get out there and strive to do their very best, it's always so uplifting, and it makes me very, very happy to see people succeed. So I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm glad you're doing well.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, and I know we've worked together too, so there you go.
Yes, absolutely. We have worked together in the past. Speaking of working, I wanted to quickly talk about a 2016 horror sci-fi Christmas film that you were in called Christmas with Cookie.
The best film you're ever going to watch.
Now, the basic synopsis is from what I can tell, is in the year 3978, global warming has made a desert of the North Pole. Santa and Miss Claus battle angry skeletons who didn't get what they wanted for Christmas. Evil aliens try to take over the world, and a giant abominable snowman wants Santa for his next meal. All this happens and is told by a kind of a Crypt Keeper-esque character dressed in a Santa outfit called Cookie.
Well, he's a radioactive Christmas elf, so yes.
Yeah, very interesting idea.
Well, when you watch it, and that's what I tell everyone, I go, it's an incredible, like, super micro budget film. Me and a few of my friends, well, my friends and myself, rather, we made this movie for a grand total of $1,000.
Wow.
So if you can get all of that into a $1,000 budget, and let's just preface that with Cookie's costume and the days that Cookie was actually on set filming, that was $800 of the $1,000 budget. So I recommend you have a nice, maybe a Moscow Mule while you watch the movie.
Oh my God. Wow. That's actually quite the feat to create a full-length film for that amount of money. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously the crazy special effects are, they're over the top, goofy. Like you're not going to be looking at it being like, that's not accurate. No, it's not supposed to be 100% accurate. It's supposed to just be creative and fun. And I mean, and Cookie, I mean, he's gone on and he's made 2 other films kind of in the genre or the vein of Mystery Science Theater 3000, where he actually gets to talk about these other B-rated horror movies that are terribly good and makes fun of them. So anyways, it's fun. Cookie is very successful, but it all started with Christmas with Cookie.
I was looking it up, and yeah, I saw that there was like some kind of Mystery Science Theater 3000-esque films, and I wasn't sure if that was related. So I'm glad you filled me in on that. As far as the makeup for Cookie, really well done. I thought Cookie looked great.
Yeah.
Really well done.
So The actor who plays Cookie is Alan Maxon, and has done plenty of acting, but I think his specialty is just monster acting, because he's got this really great tall frame, and he does these just great characters. And he was actually one of the heads in the newest King Kong movie of the three-headed dragon. So yeah, he's
Oh, wow.
incredibly fun, and I've been working with him for years. And we actually did another movie together that had a budget of $5,000 that actually just came out this summer called A Dead Dame in Hollywood, where he is not a monster, but he plays kind of this goofy, genuine film noir police detective, or private eye rather, not police detective.
Wow, that's awesome. Geez, 5 times the budget of what it was before. Maybe the next one will be 5 times that or 10 times that. You'll
Hey,
just keep growing and getting more advanced and stuff. And that's the way it is with a lot of people that come out here. And people listening that might not know, but because not everybody comes out to Hollywood and out to LA. It's tough. It's not an easy world to get into. There's all kinds of acting. There's tons of acting that's available, and you will get parts, but sometimes, most of the time when you're starting out, you're not going to get roles that you want, and you're not going to get in things that are, fully developed, like something like this, which is a full-length feature film.
mhm.
And that's great that he's able to do that and able to, continuously work and create his own things as well as work with other creators for their vision as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think more than that, it's really, being out here working in Los Angeles. Like, of course, we all, want to work. And of course, everyone wants to get on the big budget stuff, and everyone wants to have a challenge to your creativity or your specialty, whatever that might be it, being a director of photography or acting or singing or, whatever. But it's really just finding people that you really love to work with as well, because then you never go to work a day in your life. You love what you do, and you're doing it with people that, are your work family. And that
Mhm.
to me is, achieving gold.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about another kind of a micro budget horror film. It's a short film, and it was created back in 2008. And this one, you may or may not have heard about it. It's called Treevenge.
I have not heard of Treevenge, but I feel like I need to put this on my watch list.
You definitely do. Anybody that is a fan of horror and anybody that is a fan of Christmas and just ridiculous horror in general, kind of over the top, not anything that's going to make you lose your lunch. This film, it's 16 minutes long. It's hard to find, actually, but you can get it, I believe, on YouTube. There's some links to some videos that you can watch, and you can catch the whole thing on there, if I recall, because it's been about a year, I think. I think I watched it around last Christmas, to be honest. I think that's when I saw it. It's a Christmas horror short. Treevenge kind of tells you exactly what it is. Basically, Christmas trees have had enough. They're treated with such brutality and such malice that they can't take it anymore, and they start fighting back. And it is incredibly creative, gruesome, brutal, and hilarious. So
Uh,
it's definitely something worth checking out. It was directed by Jason Eisner, and it has one of the actors in there is named Jonathan Torrens. And Jonathan actually was in a reality series called Joe Schmo. He was in the second one, Joe Schmo 2. And I actually just recently watched that reality series, and that's how I remembered him and was able to. I was like, oh my God, that's that guy from Treevenge.
hey,
So
we all start out somewhere, be it a
yeah,
short film called Treevenge or Christmas with Cookie.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if you get time, definitely check out Treevenge. I think it's well worth it. Well worth it.
All right,
Um,
just wrote it down. It's on my watch list.
yeah, and I think there's even like a small trailer or something that you can find on YouTube as well if you want to get a taste for it. Also, the images for it, like the poster design is fantastic. It's just shadows of dark trees with eyes, red eyes. It's
I
great.
love it.
Yeah, can't go wrong. Um, so one that we had talked about, had you watched it or not? You said you hadn't at the time, I believe. And then you went out and did watch the film. And that's the 1974 classic Black Christmas. Now, Black Christmas was directed by Bob Clark. And this story goes is it's winter break. A group of sorority sisters, they get together and they begin to receive anonymous, really kind of racy, odd phone calls. Initially, Barb, who's one of the
Sorority sisters.
yeah, sorority sisters. Thank you. Barb eggs on the caller, but stops when he responds threateningly. So it's kind of has a very kind of a Scream-esque format to it with that it has these phone calls and they're getting harassed by this phone caller. Now, Barb is played by Margot Kidder, and for those that don't remember who Margot Kidder was, she's Lois Lane in the Superman films of the 70s and 80s. So she's got quite a bit of clout here as far as her acting prowess is concerned. And John Saxon is in it as well. You might know him and recognize him from Nightmare on Elm Street. But anyway, they start getting, these threatening calls. Soon, Barb's friend Claire goes missing from the sorority, and local adolescent girl's murdered. They start to suspect that maybe this person that's been calling them is possibly a serial killer that's on the loose. And so it's an interesting idea. If you watch, there's a trailer that came out in 2016 from Scream Factory, because they reformatted it, they brought it back out, they cleaned it up a bit and put it back out on Blu-ray. And it's like a 4-minute long trailer, and the opening of it, if you watch this trailer, is the oddest damn thing I think I've seen. It just shows a bunch of murders, and then it starts in with the story after you get to see all these murders. And it's like,
oh, interesting.
Cool. Yeah, spoilers much, but okay, cool. So if anybody listening wants to watch this film, I
you
don't
can watch it on
recommend
YouTube.
it. Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's where you watched it, right?
Yeah, I just pulled it right up on YouTube, and it was great. Decent enough quality for a 1974 film. And I thought it was. I did a little bit of just research after I watched it, because I remember thinking to myself, I love history, and so I was like, wait, this guy is, obviously a sociopath, a serial killer. But when did the FBI start their behavioral unit? And I was like, oh, let's do a little research and figure that out. And the FBI did establish their behavioral unit that basically started tracking, and you may have seen this or know about it because of Mindhunters, in 1972, and this movie came out in 1974. So I'm curious if maybe the writer was inspired by what was maybe being reported in the papers about the new FBI department. I'm curious. I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, but that sounds like it's definitely something that they could have seen and been like, wow, this is fast. And that's oftentimes how scripts are written, like a writer's inspired by something in the news, that then goes and sits down and puts pen to paper and creates something that, can be magical.
Yeah, it was great. And there was only, a lot of it aged pretty well, and you could see how when you were watching the movie that there were, classic elements of filmmaking that were brought into intensifying the suspense, some techniques that were pulled from, some of the classics, and how even today some of the newer horror films still use those exact same techniques. And I just thought that was great, because as a filmmaker's perspective, they were absolutely timeless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a solid film. It really is. It's it's not one that, I know they just remade it, so a lot of people probably aren't checking out the 74 version, but you're right. There's a lot of elements to this film that screams quality in the way that it was filmed, the way that it was shot. And it's very smartly done. I thought the tagline for this film was very, very catching to me. And it goes, "If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight."
It's great.
So I was like, okay, all right, that's creepy. Okay, I can now not sleep tonight. All right, thanks for that. So yeah, very good, very well done. So this is one that you would recommend then?
Yeah, I think for somebody who really enjoys filmmaking and who wants to watch the classics, I would certainly put this one in there, especially if you love the horror genre. I think this one is definitely a must-see for the classic filmmakers or people who really want to educate themselves on more like older films. I guess it's not even that old, but 1974. But yeah, but if you're just like a casual moviegoer, you may not love it. You might think, oh, there's not enough gore in it, or there's not enough, might not be for you. But
Mhm.
I do recommend it.
Okay. Now, when you were watching that, you went off on your own and kind of like found these other films that you were excited about and you watched and you wanted to talk about. One of them, I believe you mentioned, was called Mercy Christmas.
Yeah, so my friend Danny Haberman, I just posted on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, what's your favorite, Christmas horror movie? Just, throw it out there. Maybe I haven't seen one yet." And it's called Mercy Christmas. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I did this really smart part in it." And not to give too much away, but she dies in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh,
And I was like, "Best death scene ever."
nice.
But she's fantastic. But essentially, Mercy Christmas, it came out in 2017. You can watch it for free on Pluto, which is a streaming service. And it had about $150,000 budget. So not a huge budget, still low budget. Director Ryan Nelson. And essentially, it's this guy gets wrapped into Christmas dinner because he's lonely and by himself with this family that may or may not be cannibals, and then how he may or may not fight his way out of the Christmas dinner.
My
So that's,
God.
I mean, in a nutshell, that's what it is, and it is fun. It's tongue in cheek. There was only like one scene where I was like, "Ooh, that's ooh," kind of made my stomach boo. And it
Yeah.
was the scene at Christmas Eve dinner.
Like cannibalism and Christmas, they just really go hand in hand.
It really, I mean, it's all about eating, just keeping those traditions alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it just, it is about eating. It just depends on what it is. And for me, it's not anybody else. So,
Right? Me neither. I don't think that that's a good thing to do, eat people. So anyway, so Mercy Christmas, if cannibalism doesn't give you the heebie-jeebies, it's a fun watch. It's got some good humor in it, and the acting is, on par for a budget of $150,000. And yeah, I thought it was fun. It was a good watch.
okay, nice. Now, there was another one that you mentioned, I believe, and I think you can check this one out on Tubi, which is also a streaming service where you can watch free movies. Now, there are commercials that pop in, so it's kind of like watching it old school on television, like on ABC or CBS or whatever. And it's called Santa Sleigh.
Yes, Santa Sleigh. This one is super fun. Like the opening sequence in this movie has Fran Drescher and Chris Kattan in it, and it's it's just lovely. Like if you love them, it
Hmm.
really sets the stage for the rest of the movie. But essentially, Santa Sleigh premise is that Santa is actually this pretty horrific person. And 1,000 years ago, he got into a bet with one of God's angels, and he lost the bet. And the bet was you have to be nice for 1,000 years. But then the 1,000 years is up, so he comes back to find this angel who is now in physical form to murder him, of course, and slay along the way. And so he just takes out this town that is coincidentally called the Hell Township, and
Of
it's fun.
course.
I know, of course. Um, but yeah, it's got Bill Goldberg in it, who plays Santa, and he's this like big football player. So he's like think of like a biker as a big Harley biker club Santa. Like that's kind of the image of
Hmm.
Santa. And then Emile de Ravin and Douglas Smith are the two kids because it's becomes kind of like a kid adventure movie. And
Oh,
so I love that because it almost plays to a younger crowd, but without having so much gore or so much violence that it's unacceptable for children. I mean, if I had a middle schooler, I'd be like, yeah, yeah, you could totally watch that. no
Really?
problem. Yeah.
Okay. See,
So
because it's advertised as a slasher film. So for me, slasher films are a little bit harder to get into because they do tend to put more of an emphasis, of course, on the gore factor. And my stomach is fine, but I have to know like what I'm watching when I'm eating, like particularly. Like if I'm having dinner, I'm not watching any of the Jason films. It's just not going to happen.
right,
But,
right. And
so
you definitely don't want to watch Mercy Christmas if you're eating.
no, no, the whole cannibalism thing, that just nah.
Uh,
I'm cool. I'll let other people watch that one for
yeah.
me.
That was
Uh,
the one scene I was like, ooh. Mm-mm.
yeah.
There is, I mean, a lot in Santa's Sleigh. There is a lot of blood and guts and killing,
Uh-huh.
but I feel like if you're going into a horror movie, you expect a certain amount of that because I think there's a difference between suspense and horror, and Santa's Sleigh is definitely a horror movie, but it's toned down to a younger crowd.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the reviews, and one person said that this movie is perfect to watch with your kids. I absolutely loved it. Easily the best movie ever. So there's some fans, Some person also said actually better than what some YouTube reviews had me thinking. It was pretty cool, but campy. So it had some fun reviews and some fun comments on it. So it's one that I'm not going to be afraid to check out if somebody wants to watch it. I'll be like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely. I recommend it as that for
And I
sure.
like the aspect of the every thousand, the 1,000 year bet, and him originally being kind of evil, kind of demonic in nature. That kind of leads into a couple of the other films that we have to discuss. One of those being Rare Exports, which
Mm-hmm.
is a Christmas Tale. It's called Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale. Now, we just talked about this recently. Another friend of mine, a friend of the podcast, Christopher D. Turner, and I discussed it as we were discussing favorite films with Santa Claus in them. And this was one of his favorites. And so we discussed a lot about this one, but I kind of want to hear what you thought about the film.
Well, so I was first exposed to not the feature-length film from 2010, but the short film from 2003. Because I've got some of my best friends are Finnish. We had a
Hmm.
Finnish exchange student in high school, and so years
Oh,
later,
okay.
fast forward, they came out to visit, and you know, Finland does a lot and they do produce a lot, but as far as like the entertainment industry is concerned, they don't have a lot that hits the United States. And they were like, "Have you seen Rare Exports?" And I was like, "No, I haven't seen Rare Exports." So we found it and we watched the short film,
Hmm.
and that was just it was such a fun new take on, you know, uh, uh, I don't even know how to explain it. It was a fun new take on like the reindeers and Santa, and because in Finland they have the Lapland, which is the north of Finland, which was where the reindeers actually are from, and so I think the story being a Scandinavian story, although it was filmed in Sweden and then in Finnish, I think it's great. It just is a great film from a different part of the world that uh, takes a different take on the holidays.
Yeah, basically it's like the Krampus kind of style of Santa Claus. He's much more monstrous and evil in nature, and you don't want him to escape. He was in a tomb basically. They had uncovered him, and you don't want him out of that tomb. It's one of those things where children go missing. Are these demonic elves capturing them and kidnapping? What's happening to this town? Why aren't the parents paying as much attention as the children are? It's very creepy, but also very fun. It's like kind of a dark Goonies in a way. If you think about it, a holiday dark Goonies where kids kind of band together to try to stop this evil from coming back, and it's very enjoyable. I remember watching it in the theater when it came out back in 2010, the full length one anyway, and it was very, very enjoyable. I actually really enjoy it and highly recommend it for anybody. And that's not even our last Dark Santa story here. I mean, we've got another Krampus story that's actually called Krampus. And that one came out not too long ago, about 5 years back, 2015. It is a fun little film. It's got Adam Scott, Toni Collette, and a few other actors in there that you will definitely recognize when you watch this film. The basic premise of it is that holiday season represents the most magical time of year. Although ancient European folklore warns of Krampus, a horned beast who punishes naughty children at Christmas time, when dysfunctional families squabble and they cause this young kid, Max, to lose his festive spirit, when he does that, it unleashes the wrath of the fearsome demon, Krampus. And as Krampus lays siege to the Engel home, his mom and dad and sister and brother must band together to save one another from a monstrous, disastrous fate. I think it cost about $15 million to make. It ended up making a little over $60 million in the box office, so it was a definite hit. And it was directed by Michael Dougherty, who, if we all recall, did a holiday horror anthology for Halloween called Trick or Treat. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, he was a very competent director. He did an extremely good job with this. The creatures in this alone, you will never, by the way, look at a Jack in the Box the same, ever, after watching this film. The elves are truly frightening. Santa / Krampus, whatever you want to call him, is the scariest damn thing you've ever seen. This film builds tension. It has comedy in there. It's just a fun time for anybody that enjoys holiday films and horror films blended together like this. It does a really good pairing of the two. I believe if you have a Hulu premium subscription, you can watch it on there. You might be able to find a full length on YouTube if you purchase it. And at one point, I do know it was on Netflix, but I'm not sure if it still is or not.
You know, the thing I love about Krampus is I love that it is such a beautiful balance to the over like saccharine of Christmas. Like Christmas for so many people is just this, you're kind of just like vomiting candy canes and goodness and love, and all of the movies have a happy ending and the homeless gets homes and I just like all of those movies at Christmas time. You fall in love and you get engaged and it's like, ugh. But Krampus, he's the nice complement to all of that goodness. And if you were not good, you in fact get penalized for that. And I just love it. It just speaks to my heart.
Yeah, you'd be in a lot of trouble if you were not a good person. It's the stick, not the carrot, in other words.
Exactly. And I think that, in life and with every good tale that we tell as storytellers, you have the good and the bad. You have, the good and the evil. You have the light and the dark. You have Santa Claus and Krampus. And I think that the yin and the yang, like you have to have that balance in everything as a human. And I think it is something that for me growing up was missing in my childhood Christmas movies. The closest thing we got was Gremlins, which were obviously still a fantastic film from 1984. Right.
Yeah.
But Krampus,
rather dark.
Yeah, yes. But as a kid, I didn't think it was dark. I just thought it was excellent with Gremlins. I just thought it was a great film with a great story. Right. But yeah, I love that the fact that Krampus really in the last decade has really started taking off as becoming more popular in American storytelling for the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's another one that we will bring up here briefly because we are running out of time. But it's one that you watched and I watched, and neither one of us knew that the other person was going to watch it or had watched it. You can watch it on Prime Video, I believe. And it was at one point, if I recall, available on Netflix. Again, I'm not sure, but it's called A Christmas Horror Story.
Yes.
This one also had a Krampus-like character in there that fights Santa Claus at one point, which is quite fun, actually. The makeup, the effects on this Krampus are amazing, by the way. I don't know what you thought, but it kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow, for the budget of this film, this is really good.
I mean, really, all things considering, this was a solid film for. I love that it had, three distinct storylines that were interwoven just enough that kept you interested, and they
Hmm.
kept jumping between the three different stories, and it really kind of caught on three, like I said, distinct stories of the holidays. The Immaculate Inception, Krampus, and the one with, oh my gosh, the Changeling. So all
Yeah.
three of those kind of fringe horror-esque stories are brought together into one movie, and it had good acting, great makeup, fantastic. I mean, William Shatner is essentially the MC of the movie.
Yeah, that
You
cracked me up.
can't beat that.
No, no, you can't. It
So
was
yeah.
very interesting stories. A nice anthology film. It came out in 2015. So we both, I think, highly recommend that one for people.
Yeah, and a few good jump scares are mixed in too, which is just kind of good to keep you on your feet while you're watching a good film.
Hmm. And real quick, why when we get I've got my foot halfway out the door here. We're going to quickly mention a few. I'm not sure if you've seen this, Breeanna, but have you seen The Lodge? It came out, I believe, last year or earlier this year.
I have not seen The Lodge, but again, I will put that on my list.
Yeah, I think it came out in February of this year, and it's very fascinating. I'll give you a brief synopsis of it. During a family retreat to a remote winter cabin over the holidays, a father's forced to abruptly depart for work, leaving his two children in the care of his new girlfriend, Grace. Isolated and alone, a blizzard traps him inside the lodge as terrifying events summon specters from Grace's dark past. So, um, some things happen. Basically, what this doesn't say that I will say is that the children's mother had committed suicide, and she was the father was leaving the mother, and she was put in a situation where she didn't know what to do, and she just took that as a sign that she needed to just end things, so she committed suicide. So it's got a dark opening to it. It really does, and does have this creepy tone to it throughout the entire film, but it actually is very riveting. It's a very good story, and one that I don't think I've seen told like this, and I was very pleased with it. Watching it for the Halloween season. I just watched it last month, so I liked it a lot, and I do recommend it to anybody that wants to check it out. It is, I believe, again, if you have the subscription with Hulu, you can watch it on there, and might be able to find it on some other streaming apps as well. But I do recommend it. It's a very good film.
Nice, nice. And I have just one more that was recommended to me that I think that, again, if you love filmmaking and you are somebody who loves telling a story, it's a French horror Christmas movie. It came out in 1989, and the French film name is 3615 Code Pere Noël, but the American subtitled, it might be called Game Over or Deadly Games, depending on where you find it. But
Okay.
but the director is Renee Manzour, and this is essentially it's Home Alone, but scarier. And this came out 3 years before Home Alone did. So it's not only scarier, but it's also French. So you have like those great French storytelling elements that are mixed into it. And the relationships between the son, and instead of him being alone in his house like Macaulay Culkin is in Home Alone, he's actually in this mansion with his grandfather. And so I love the relationship between him and his granddad, Papi, and his mom actually have a really great relationship as well. So some of the same elements of Home Alone, but scarier and French. So I recommend it if you want to watch just kind of a really fun, but again, classic horror Christmas film.
Nice. That does sound really good. I'm going to definitely check that one out.
And you can watch it on YouTube, so it's free.
Oh, great. Even better. Real quick, there's two more. Better Watch Out, which I believe is on Netflix, and Anna and the Apocalypse, which I think you can find on Hulu. Anna and the Apocalypse is an apocalyptic Christmas film slash musical, whereas Better Watch Out is a rather dark, like kind of a Home Alone-esque type story, where there is an intruder and a young boy and his babysitter have to try to defend themselves. It gets dark, guys. It gets real dark, but it's good. It's very good. So Better Watch Out and In the Apocalypse are two more that we recommend. And I
Anna
think
and the
that's
Apocalypse is so much fun. Just
Yeah,
throwing that
right?
out there. It's so much fun. I did watch that. I didn't even write it down, but yeah, I watched that last year and I was like, oh, this is a joyful horror zombie Christmas film. I love it.
Right. And there is definitely musical elements to it. So I want people to know that right away. I did not know that. So when I started it and everybody started singing, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, ooh, this is not gonna be my thing. And it ended up, they turned it around on me, and it like ended up being really, really good and really kind of endearing in a lot of ways. So I definitely highly recommend that. And I think sounds like you do too.
Yeah, I definitely do. And again, like I think Anna and the Apocalypse again is like, if you got like a mature 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, like middle school age, I think all of these movies are perfectly fine for them if your kid is mature.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the key right there.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to do it for us, Breeanna. So thank you so much for being on. Again, I was talking with actor Breeanna Judy. Please check out some of her fine work, including Christmas with Cookie, which is a cute little holiday film that you can check out and find on which streaming service?
You can actually purchase it on Amazon. You can rent it or buy it on Amazon.
Hey, there we go. So you can find it on Amazon and watch it there. So thank you again for being on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Yeah. And for those that want to listen to more of our podcasts and what we have to offer, we're doing a whole slew of holiday podcasts. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can find us on Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, and just a whole host of other podcast formats. We are out there. Odds are, if it's a format for podcasts, we'll be on it. We do live podcasts almost every Monday on YouTube Live. You can find us there, usually around 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, under Rumble Spoon Productions on the YouTube page there. And we also have Facebook and Instagram. You can find us on there if you have questions or comments, or you have any recommendations for future podcasts. And with that, thank you for coming and listening to the Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.